Ryan, you ready to get this thing going?
Yeah, we can talk about the House settlement, which was officially approved on, I
Last
don't,
week, last
yeah,
Thursday, I think.
the last 7 days has blended together in my life. I have no idea where I am.
Listen, I can tell you all about it. It isn't going to matter. No, I'm just kidding.
Like, that's fair.
So, what the whole purpose of this was what coaches have been asking for is some guide rails to this NIL world, right? So, we had the House settlements known as House versus NCAA. It's a big landmark agreement. Now, Division One schools can pay student athletes from their share of the athletic program's revenue starting, I believe, July 1st, 2025. Also, in addition to this, they're going to then back pay athletes from 2016 to 2024, Ryan, which has a lot of athletes who played in 2015 before being pissed off that how did you come up with this random date of 2016 and why aren't we getting our money? So that'll be another mess that the NCAA in this lawsuit gets to deal with all on their own. But to the more, I'd say, important stuff of the guys who play now, we're just trying to address concerns on restrictions of athletes profiting from NIL. So with the revenue sharing, schools can pay athletes a share of up to 22% of their athletic program's revenue. So it's media rights, ticket sales, sponsorships. The cap for 2025-2026 is a $20.5 million cap per school. Now, the caveat to that is not all of that $20.5 million goes to the football program. I believe it's mostly divvied between football and men's basketball, and then there's other tailored down. So someone was saying like football gets 75%. So you're looking at like 14 million for your football program. And they're going to have an annual increase of about $1 million per year, eventually reaching a peak of 32.9 million in the year 2034, 2035. Ryan, we will be 43 years old at that point. Does that make you feel
I
sad?
really wish you did not say that.
Oh my gosh, that's scary. And then the cap on, you guys may wonder, well, what happens to all these NIL agreements that we had through the, what do you want to call them? What do they call the different groups that were able to pay these players external deals? You can still do that, but if they exceed this whopping number of $600, Ryan, they now must be vetted by a third-party clearinghouse. So they're putting a higher scrutiny on these to then ensure that these deals are fair market value. However, you're only as worth as much as someone's willing to pay you. So when someone wants to give this athlete $10,000 and then the clearinghouse says no, we're just going to get a lawsuit and then the guy's going to get the money anyways. So we have the guide rails in place. How long will it take until someone jumps over those guide rails? One can only know. Your thoughts?
It will happen probably immediately.
Yeah. I mean, do you think, just on the general idea, what do you think about just schools sharing their revenue with players?
I mean,
Overdue? You still don't like it?
no, I mean, it was definitely overdue. We're talking about athletic programs that have been by and large, I shouldn't say by and large, but more often than not raking in money. And I think the general argument that, well, football funds all these other sports and yada, yada, yada. Well, I think that's true in some cases, mostly the group of five level. Like the Power Five, that's not necessarily the case. And you are talking about exploding TV revenues. You're talking about decisions that are being made not for the betterment of the sport, but for the financial gain of people who are not suiting up. TV executives who some probably played football, but most have not played the game in their life, and they're raking in cash. And the people who are on the field risking life and limb for that entertainment product not getting paid is wrong. I mean, just flat out wrong. And this method, mode, whatever you want to call it, that we've been in the last 3 years, where athletic directors are sending fundraising emails or, you know, university Twitter accounts or sending out tweets saying you can support your favorite
It's a
athletes
joke.
here. It's like, okay, so why are you charging people $10,000 to license a season ticket to then charge them another $10,000 to buy season tickets, and now they have to fucking send you more money to pay the
Mm-hmm.
players too?
Yeah.
What did that $20,000 that they sent you go to? Like, are you wiping your ass with it and then lighting your fucking cigar on fire with it? Like, come on. Ridiculous. I'm interested to kind of see how this plays out. I feel like I re-listened to the Gridiron show that I did for Notre Dame, and I feel like that's my phrase now, as I said that like 17 times. I'm interested to see how this plays out because I'm a smart person who doesn't know anything. It's just like how college football has been. There's going to be workarounds for it. People are going to still, are we going back? I saw an article on The Athletic. It was like, are we going back to the age of the bagmen now? I don't know, maybe, but now that these kids are already getting money from from the schools themselves, maybe less so. Maybe there will be less financial incentive to go somewhere who's offering you more on the side. So you're like, I don't think that's a great situation for me. One thing I saw too is like the revenue cap. It goes by the academic year. So it resets in July. So one thing that I saw hypothesized was if a team knows that they're going to not be the best in 1 year, do they just like save all of their money from July instead of giving it to players to save it for the or the winter portal window? Because that's the interesting thing to me is if your cap is resetting. Yeah, because if your cap is resetting in July, well, if you spent it all, so let's say like hypothetically we'll say for the 2025 season, let's say 2026 because it's a little different. So after the 2025 season, you're already going to have spent your, $20 million, $16 million, whatever that ends up being on your current roster. Well, how are you going to go shopping in the transfer portal now? Because you can't give people money immediately. Maybe there's a promise, a hint, hint, wink, wink of, okay, well, when this resets in 2026 in July, this is what you will get. But, let's say Arkansas decided that, we're going to save this money and we're going to come in with a bully ball offer in the transfer portal in December and then say, hey, this is what you get for transferring now, and then this is what you're going to get when the market resets or the cap resets in August. So I saw some hypotheses of our team's going to tank 1 year so they can load up for the next year.
Professional sports teams tanking to get the number 1 draft pick.
Right. Like we're not going to pay we're not going to use all of our roster so that way we can big game hunt in the winter transfer portal window, which leads to another interesting question of, I know coaches have been clamoring for one portal window. Does this then lead to that where there's now no winter portal? Everyone's going to have to stay at their school through the spring semester. And then the only time, maybe it's an expanded window. It's not 15 days. Maybe it's a 45-day window after the conclusion of the spring semester. But then, some people are going to push back on that saying, well, we were looking for a quarterback and we didn't have a quarterback here for spring ball and yada, yada, yada. So I will be fascinated to see what kind of downstream effects come that we aren't maybe necessarily expecting. And I think those are 2 interesting ones that could pop up.
And I think you mentioned Arkansas is a good example because I don't think you'll see Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Alabama, barring a bad push of luck, doing something like that.
Oh, God, no.
Because they're going to be competing every year. It's going to be these teams that are mid-tier, lower tier who are looking for a way to break in. And we've seen Arkansas kind of be there. We've seen, I don't know, maybe something like a Wisconsin could utilize, right? Like, we've got a killer schedule this year. We're probably going to go 6-6, 5-7. And we've already got our guys here, but now we can swing and get the offensive line we need to be able to run this offense better or to fix the defensive line and just load up. And then we already got these guys here, and now we can facilitate the money over the next few years. So certainly will be interesting. It'll also be interesting, too, if you play that strategy of guys who want to hop in the portal to go get a bigger bag, right? Like if you're not at Ohio State or Georgia, or you're that 5-star who's going to have to sit for 2 years till the guy ahead of you leaves, here comes Arkansas about ready to offer you a massive bag to come play for them, or Wisconsin, or whoever you want to say, Miami. We all know Miami. It'll be interesting to see how Miami does there with this because a lot of them are talking about like Ohio State will be fine, Oregon's going to be fine, but a lot of Miami's stuff sounds like it came from those additional NIL deals.
Right.
They're not generating a lot of money from the places that are approved or from the school.
No, for sure.
So it's pretty interesting. Another tidbit on the people who are handing out those extra deals, it has to be a publicly traded company to be able to broker deals. So that's where some of these schools might run into trouble. But they still even have to be approved, obviously, by the clearinghouse. And then the other side note that I got was Tennessee started filing paperwork over a month ago so that they can't be sued when they decide to, within their state legislation, to not be sued so they can work outside those guidelines already that we just sat in.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is I think something I've seen is I don't know how the scholarship is going to be affected if they're still 4-year scholarships or if they're different, but like I've seen stuff where when you're recruiting kids, you can offer like, like a 1 year, here's your NIL pact, and then we'll renegotiate after the year, or a 2 year or a 3 year or whatever. I'm going to be interested to see with, someone who, let's say a program like Northwestern signs a, high 2-star, low 3-star kid who blows up as a freshman and comes in, but they signed him to a 2-year contract. But he's like, well, I don't want to stay at Northwestern. I'm going to go transfer after this year. I wonder if there's some sort of buyout clause in these contracts for the players where it's like if you enter the portal before the end of your NIL agreement where you have to pay back a portion or all of what was in it or a prorated what, I don't know. I'm just curious to see if
Certainly.
that becomes a thing.
Yep. The biggest thing I saw in the scholarship changes is that the settlement will also allow the schools to provide full scholarships to all student athletes on a declared roster, and then eliminates a sport-by-sport scholarship maximum. So it gives them a little more flexibility in their ability to provide athletic aid. That was about the only piece I got on that. Most of what everybody's talking about is like the cap. And then until someone goes outside the guide rails in the NIL world and sues the NCAA for it. So, but pretty interesting. We all asked for it, so here they are. Here's the guide rails. Someone's going to find it and abuse it, and let's see where it goes from there. I think we're closer. We're closer. We're not there. It's a step in the right direction.